Hey guys, my name is Alexandra Valentine and you are welcome to today's tutorial class. So in today's video we are going to be drafting a basic body. So in our last video I went ahead to show you guys how to take a proper body measurement, and these were the measurements I took. So remember I said in our last video that the measurement is divided into vertical and horizontal measurements, and these are the things to measure. So these are my measurements. So it's this measurement I'll be using to draft out these basic bodies. So to get started, we are going to be needing plain sheets or carbon paper, whichever one you lay your hands on. But if you're working with a plain sheet, you want to go ahead and join the papers together so that you have it full. So you'll be needing your plain sheet, your tape rule, markers, pen, and curve ruler with straight ruler. Okay, so this is me now marking 2 inches from the edge of the paper. So I'm going to mark 2 inches from the edge of the paper, from the beginning of the paper to the ending of the paper. I'm just going to mark 2 inches all through. Then I'm going to use my straight ruler to connect all those points I marked. I'm going to connect them into a straight line with my marker so that it will be more visible. You can see that the pen mark is very faint. That's the reason why I'm using a marker, so that it will be more visible for you guys to see it. So note, this straight line is going to start from the edge, from the beginning of the paper to the bottom of the paper, because the basic bodice we are drafting right now is a full scale basic bodice. And what I'm doing right now, I want to be like teaching you guys the terms they use for it. So I am drafting. You don't call it drawing. What you call it is you're drafting out a pattern for your dress. So this pattern I am drafting now is for a basic bodice. Now these 2 inches that we marked is going to be for our zip allowance, because I'm going to be doing a 2-in-1 drafting. I'm going to be drafting both the front and the back on the same pattern, okay? Because the difference between the front basic bodies and the back basic bodies is just the zip allowance at the back, because you're going to attach a zipper at the back and also at the armhole area. So that's the reason why I'm making use of one pattern. Then I'm going to show you guys how to cut it when you want to cut it on your fabric. So the next thing to do now is to impute the shoulder measurement on the pattern paper. So remember, from our basic bodies, I told you that all horizontal measurement is going to be divided by 4. But for your shoulder, you're going to divide it by 2 because it's not going around the body. So what I have on the shoulder there, I'm going to divide it by 2 and I'll place it on this line I measured. Remember, the zip allowance is for the back and what I'm drafting right now is for the front. Now from that point, that shoulder point, I am going to come down by 9 inches for the armhole. So these 9 inches I use it for all sizes, but if you're a small size you might want to use 8 inches. It depends on what you want, if it's going to be tighter, but I like using it 9 inches so that there will be allowance, you'll be able to raise your hand and stuff like that. So I'm just going to connect those 2 points into a straight line with my pen, and then on this 9 inches I'm going to extend it into a straight line as well. So do not forget, it's the front basic bodies I am still drafting, and all the front basic bodies should be after this zip allowance line. So I'm going to come down from the edge of the paper by 3 inches. That's for the neck depth. If you're a plus size, you might want to use 4 inches, 5 inches. It depends on how deep you want your neck to be, but do not exceed 6 inches except you want to show your cleavage. And then for the width, is going to be 3 inches as well. If you're a plus size, you can also use 4x4 or 5x5. So I've gone ahead to square it up, and I'm going to use my curve ruler to just curve it out so that we'll have that sweet round neck shape. So this is what I have here for our neck. So the next thing to do now is to come down by 1 inch from the edge of the paper on that shoulder line for our shoulder slant. Remember, when I was showing you guys how to take a basic bodice, I explained that our shoulder was slanted, and in order for it to fit that part perfectly, you have to come down by 1 inch and connect it into your neckline like this. So I'm going to go ahead now to mark all my vertical measurements, which are my bust points, chest line, on the bust, waistline, that's shoulder to waist, and waist to hip, full length, and shoulder to knee. Those are my vertical measurements, just like I explained in my last video. And if you're not up to date, you might want to go back and check that video. So this is my bust point, and this is my under bust. I'm just marking it. Then this is my waistline. I'm marking them. Then my waist to hip measurement. Remember, that's going to be different. So I'm just going to bring my tape down to that waist area and then mark my waist to hip. That's the larger part of my hip, which is 9 inches. So all these points now that I just marked, I'm going to extend it into a straight line. Now you see how our vertical measurement has transitioned into a horizontal line. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to be labeling the line so I'm not confused. So that's the bust point, under bust, this is going to be the waistline, and then this is going to be the hip line. So before I forgot, I did not do my chest measurement, my chest line. So I'm just going to draw it now. So you determine your chest line from the point where your cleavage starts to show. So for mine, it's at 6 inches. So I'm just going to measure 6 inches from the edge of the paper and then extend it into a straight line. Now I'm going to make this bust line, under bust line, and waistline visible by using my marker to just make it more bold. So the next is to draft out our armhole, which is at the point where I said that this is also one of the difference between the back and the front. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is the remaining, that's from the shoulder slant point to where our armhole ends. I'm going to divide it into 2. Then I'm going to come inwards and mark 1/2 inch on that point. Divide into 2, on that divided point, I'm going to come inwards, that's towards the neck area, by 1/2 inch. Now what I'm going to do to be able to determine the curve is to impute my bust measurement. So my bust measurement, remember, is going around the body, so it's going to be divided by 4. Bust measurement divided by 4, and then I'm going to connect those 3 points together. So see the way I connect it with my curve. My bust measurement connected to that 1/2 inch and then all the way to the shoulder slant. And that's just it. Very simple, guys. You've gotten your front armhole. So now I want to determine the back armhole. So I'm going to come down from the edge of the paper by 1 inch. Remember, the edge of the paper is the starting point. So I'm going to use my curve ruler now to make a curve to meet the width of the neck. So for this neck opening now is for the back. It can now be extended into the zip allowance, okay? Unlike the front part where it just stopped at that line. the back neckline can be extended into the zip allowance, because the zip allowance is for the back and not the front. Just in some cases where the front has the zipper instead of the back. So now I've gone ahead to label that out, and the next thing to do is to determine the back armhole. So the back armhole is just easy. Just going to use your curve ruler and just connect it on that straight line. The point where you divide, that's where it's going to stop, like that divided point. Then you just connect it into your bust measurement. I don't know if that makes sense. So this is going to be the front armhole, while the outer one is going to be the back armhole. So I'm just trying to differentiate it, so by the time you want to cut it out, you know the one you're cutting. You might want to cut out the back pattern first on your fabric before cutting out the front pattern. That way it's easier, you're not using a lot of paper. So now we're going to move to our body measurement. We have gone half of the video already. So what I'm going to do is, on the waistline, I'm going to divide my round waist measurement, divide by 4. So whatever I have, I'm going to mark it, and then I'll add 2 inches for my stitching allowance. For my bust area, I've already imputed the bust measurement. I'm just going to add 2 inches to it for my stitching allowance, and I'm going to connect those 2 points together. So when you're connecting, you want to make sure that the waist is not as sharp as, you can see that I did not get to that point on the waist. So what I'm doing now is I am dividing my hip measurement divided by 2 plus 2 inches stitching allowance. Then I'm going to connect to the waist. So notice how my line did not meet the waistline, is because I do not want that part to be pointy, so I'm going to use my curve ruler to just curve out that part. And I also do the same thing for that hip area. You can see that that straight line did not meet the hip point, so I'm just going to curve it out so that it's not too pointy. So let's move over to the dart, which is our bust span. And to get our bust span, we have to measure our nipple to nipple measurement. So for mine, it's 7 inches, so divide by 4. If you're drafting on a pattern paper, just put exactly what you divide. For mine, it's 3.5. 7 divided by 2, is 3.5. So I'm going to mark it on this line after the zip allowance, and I'm going to mark it on the bust line, on the bust waist, and then I'll connect it into a straight line. Okay, so from the waist now, I am going to be coming down from that waist by 5 inch, because this is where the dart is going to be stopping. Remember, I'm drafting out a full basic bodice, a full scale basic bodice. Then on that line, I'm marking my nipple to nipple measurement as well, and I'm just connecting the line to continue the flow of the dart leg. So this is our dart leg, or dart line, as you may want to call it. So on the waistline, I am going to be marking 1/2 inch in and out, okay? 1/2 inch in and out on the waistline. Then on the bust point, I'm going to come down by just 1 or 1/2 of an inch. Depends on what you want. 1 or 1/2 of an inch will do. Then I will connect it to meet the 2 points on the dart leg, like on 2 sides of the dart leg. So I'll connect it like this. I hope this is not too much to comprehend. If it is, you can always slow the video, rewatch, and you get it eventually. So this is the point where the dart is going to stop. So I'm going to connect it to meet that point, just like we did below the bust point. So I'll connect it to meet the waistline, and we have our dart intake. So this dart intake is to prevent any bulging, just to make your clothes fit you perfectly and nicely. Okay, so let's continue. Remember that this basic body is just stopping at the hip, it has not gotten down. So let's continue all the way down. So now I'm extending the 2 inches for the zip allowance. I'm going to extend it until I get to the edge, to the end of the paper. Then I'm going to take my tape rule and I'll place the beginning of the tape rule at the edge of the paper, and I'm going to mark my nail, like the point where my nail is. So this is like measuring from your shoulder to where your nail is. So you are going to mark it and also mark your floor length, or wherever it is you want your dress to stop. That's if it's going to be below your nail. So you only need the measurement of your nail and your floor length, or any length measurement below your nail. So I'm going to use my ruler now to extend that nail point that I marked. I'm going to extend it. So this paper was not long enough to be able to hold my floor length, but it does not matter anyway, since we still have space after the floor length. So it's still the same thing. So what I'm going to do now, on this nail, I'm just marking it my nail line. So on this nail now, I am going to put my hip measurement there, -2. So my hip measurement -2 plus 2 inches is going to still be my hip measurement. I don't know if it makes sense. My hip measurement, which is 9 inches, -2, that's 7 inches. I'm marking it right. Then +2 for stitching allowance, the usual 2 inches I added to all the lines, is still going to be my hip measurement, right? Back to 9 inches. So now I'm going to connect from the hip point to meet that nail mark. So just like I did before, I'm not going to let this straight line to get all the way to the hip line, so that I'll have a curve at that point. I do not want my hip shape to be looking edgy, pointy, sharp. So I want it to be round and just slap on the person's body. Okay, so I'm going to use my curve ruler here to curve that out, and then any measurement after your nail is just going to take the same measurement of your nail. So I'm going to put 9 inches all the way down. So at this point now, it's just going to be straight down. That's why I'm saying it's not really that important that this paper did not capture my full measurement, because this is going to be straight anyways. So this is it. This is the end of this tutorial. This is how you go about the drafting of a full-scale basic bodice. So if you want to cut this on your fabric, you can go ahead and cut the back first, and when you want to cut the front, you can fold in the zip allowance, and that's just it. So if you watched to this point, thank you so much for watching, and please do not forget to subscribe and also like this video so that it will reach more people. Thank you so much. Until next time, bye.